Alright Libra, welcome back to the Astrology 33 channel. This is your mid-April 2023 love reading. Thank you to those of you who like, viewed, shared, and subscribed to the channel. I appreciate all of that. For those of you new to the channel, cards are what we have in front of us. It's what I call the bridge the gap spread. And the way it works is we'll get the past, present, and future energies between you and your main love interest. Once we get to roll that, we'll pull some oracle cards as well for some additional insight, and that's where the bridge the gap dynamic comes into play. And as far as the decks being used, on the left side we have the Lover's Path Tarot, on the right side we have the Romantic Tarot. And also keep in mind it's a general reading, so I'm going to be referring to the cards, and the left is your energy, and the cards and right is the other person's. If you feel like it's the way around in your situation, then definitely trust that. Alright, so with all that out of the way, we'll get started. Past energy on your side, we have the Three of Coins. So, this is a Capricorn energy here, and the meter says that you probably went through a phase where you're trying to build things up in your life. And usually when we see the Three of Coins or Three of Pentacles in most decks, there's an energy of collaboration in the artwork. But here what always stands out to me is we see this person's alone. If we look at their facial expression, if it'll focus, easier said than done. There we go. If we look at the facial expression, she doesn't necessarily look all that happy, right? So it could just be one of those things where you were hoping for someone to join you in this building process that you went through, but you might have felt like you were alone in the process. And given that we do see she's pointed in the direction of the cards here, it could just be saying that you were hoping that this other person would have been along for that journey. All right, past energy on their side, we have the Nine of Wands. So what stands out to me here is we see that kid in the background behind the gate, right? And usually with the traditional tarot, we see someone standing with the wands and they're looking like they've gone through a battle, right? But with this deck, what I see with this card is when they grew up, they might have felt like they were a bit neglected by their parents. So it could just be one of those things where if you were really focused on, let's say, your finances, right? You were trying to build your finances, focus on your career. That might have been a bit of a trigger for them where it might have brought them back to their past when they felt like, you know, they weren't necessarily shown love by their parents. So it could have been one of those things that was causing the disconnect there. All right, and present position on your side, we have the Five of Coins. So this is a Taurus energy here. So for some of you might be feeling this as we get toward the end of April when Taurus season kicks off. But could just be saying that a lot of you might realize that you're losing faith in the connection, right? So we see two more pentacles in the mix, but at the same time, now we see her body language. She's pointing away from the cards on their side, and it looks like there's what could even possibly be a baby, right? So let's say if this was just more of the vision you had for the connection, right? We're going to build together. We're going to possibly start a family together. It'd just be saying that in the present, you really lost all that faith in the ability for that to happen, and you might be removing yourself from the connection at this time. All right, present energy on their side, we have quite a few cards that came up, but we have the Three of Pentacles. So interesting, you guys had in the past, we see it in the present for them, and we do see multiple people. We have the Knight of Wands, the Knight of Swords, and the Nine of Swords. So a lot going on here, but what I'm primarily getting with this is in the present, they might do something that's actually attempting to test the strength of the connection. And in the process of doing so, you know, it might just be one of those things that might trigger you, right? They might try some different approaches to see. Again, I feel like that's built on this wound from the past being triggered for them, where they might feel like, oh, okay, if I get involved with Libra, I'm going to end up back in that cycle where I feel neglected, right? Things along those lines. But then what I feel might happen, given that this is the last card in that series, is that they might end up pushing you away in the process, right? Which we see with the Five of Coins there. And then that could trigger a fear for them that, okay, well, is Libra going to possibly end up with someone else now, right? So I see them as more of that card in the background, similar to like we saw there. And then they're looking at this couple. So it could just be one of those things where, again, like I said, it seems like there's a wound that seems to be fueling a lot of what's going on with them. But that's all I get with that. All right, future energy. On your side, we have the Three of Staves. So to me, this does look like a return, right? So I feel like this is saying, and quite frankly, given the energies we're talking about so far, reminds me of the fact that we're just about to start a Mercury retrograde soon. So Could just be pointing to that, where it's one of those things where during a retrograde, maybe tempers flare, right? Maybe there's a loss of faith in the situation, but in the future, it looks like there will be a coming back around with the situation. But I do feel like this is still somewhat passive on your part as far as, you're still hoping to see them show up in some way, but at least you're open to it again, whereas in the present, you might feel like you've written them off. All right, and future energy on their side, we have the Queen of Cups. So this is typically a Cancerian energy, and what I see here is if we look, they have that mask in their hand, right? So to me, this represents them opening up a little bit more and being more vulnerable, right? So maybe even expressing you, hey, this is what was going on at the time, right? Looks like ultimately it is you leaving the connection for a while that does trigger that in them, right? Otherwise, who knows how long this type of cycle might have gone on. So that's the one positive of the situation, I guess. But yeah, it looks like it's saying that through leaving a connection behind, it might actually make them realize that, okay, in order for this to succeed, they're going to have to be open and vulnerable about what their triggers are, right? What they were going through. And at least seeing the Queen energy here to me says that for the most part, it looks like they will actually have done a lot of the healing when they come forward in that way. All right. Bottom of the deck on your side, we have the Eight of Cups. So the Eight of Cups in this deck always stands out to me as interesting because with the way their bodies are positioned, traditionally, Eight of Cups represents walking away from something, but here it always stands out to me that it almost looks like you could see it either way, to where this could also be the process of after they have already walked away, coming back to the situation. But if you look here, we see that one cup looks like the heart is hollowed out, whereas the other one seemed to be filled in. So that could have been the realization that you were coming to, right? That might have led you to walk away, to say that, okay, it doesn't like this person's really ready for anything, so you might have gone to search elsewhere, right? But in the process, you might have realized that, okay, actually, I would like to give this a chance. All right, and bottom of the deck on their side, we have the Queen of Wands. So more Queen energy here. This is Aries energy. And it could just be saying that, as we've progressed through Aries energy, maybe it really forced them to look at the situation, right? And look at maybe what role they've played in the situation. So it'd just be one of those things that could actually finally spark them to action in that regard. All right, so moving on to your oracle cards. First, we'll see what we get from our Moonlight deck here. I'm going to be opening the runs for the messages from you to them and from them to you as well. So we'll see what comes up. Almost had one there. And got one there. And next we'll see if we get from them to you. Oh, already got one on their side, so that was a lot quicker. But let's see what we get on your side first. All right, we have walls. There we go. It says, I feel like I can't get through to you. Please let me in. So interesting, right? I mean, definitely we could see where that could be the case as far as I was talking about. Well, instead of a wall, it's a gate in this case, but very similar energies, right? As far as, like I said, it looks like through you having a lot of focus on, like I said, maybe it was career for you or whatever the case may be. Looks like whatever this other focus was that you had might have triggered them to go back to their old wounds, and then that could be why they had their guard up. And on their side, we have factors. It says, we're so different. I'm trying to figure out how this is going to work. So interesting message there, right? But yeah, like I said, to be fair, it looks like this person's definitely been going through some type of healing, or they need to, I should say, right? But it definitely looks like the interaction between the two of you did seem to trigger that wound in them from their childhood, and now it looks like they're going through that process. And like I said, it looks like they will eventually get there. Unfortunately, it looks like for some of you, it would take you walking away to actually spark that from them, but that's what I see with that. All right, and lastly, we'll pull a card from the Wisdom of the Oracle deck. And here I'm just looking for a single card to wrap the reading up with. Oh, already got one. So let's see what you got. Okay, we have Happy Happy. And there's the artwork. And the number is 26. So let's see what this has to say. Okay, the relationship message says there are moments in a relationship when you just feel good about whom you're with and you know that your heart is wide open to befriend, to love, and to care for another without wanting anything in return. This is the kind of happy that you just want to share. The appearance of this card in the reading tells you that joy and contentment are here now, not somewhere else or off in the future. The grass is greenest right where you stand. Be grateful and polite in your relationship, and if you're seeking one, be happy now. Happiness attracts more of itself, like bees to honey. So yeah, definitely an interesting message there. Because at the very least, like I said, it looks like this person has some wounds that were triggered, and they're going to be going through that healing process. And maybe that's going to be a learning process for them as well, right? Which is to say that, okay, just because that might have been your past, you can't necessarily let everything that resembles that automatically have you assuming the worst, right? And then for you, could just be saying that, doing something without expecting something, right? And that could be what could help you in that regard too. So interesting energies. Like I said, for some of you, this could be as simple as maybe the Mercury retrograde energies kicking things up for you guys. And once that all passes, you guys might be fine. But hopefully that resonated with you guys. We'll wrap up there and I'll see you all next month. All right, bye.